Last mail before they confront the full reality of the war. They never expected to fight.
That's good.
For America Tonight, Martha Teichner in Saudi Arabia.
We have made the point that the soldiers who are going to fight this war are not the children of privilege. By and large, they are young men and women who enlisted from the small towns and the black communities and the barrios, looking for opportunity and an education. East Los Angeles is another of the places they come from. Laverne Avenue has given more than most American streets to this war. So there are a lot of parents here in the barrio worrying about their children far away in what they call El Golfo Persico. Timothy Reyes left home to join the Navy.
They say there will be a lot of casualties. But like my son said the last time, Mama, don't cry. We know that we're here because they're not as free as we are. They don't have the democracy and the freedom.
Oh, hi, sweetie. How are you?
Rachel Reyes and her husband Steve take strength from all the other parents in the neighborhood who are worrying too. Irene Chavez never thought there'd be a war when her son John joined the Marines.
Well, I'm angry, but I have to support him because that's his wish. Ever since he was in the 4th grade, that was all he played in the backyard. Army man, but I thought he'd get over it.
Delia and Frank Ortiz's son Daniel joined the Army about a year ago.
I think the closer it gets, the more nervous you get because when I see especially Hussein and Bush, being here in East LA reminds me like two gangs. It's scary because it looks like two fools and your sons can die for it and your daughters. And you say, you know, why?
I'm proud to be an American, of course, and I'm proud of what John's doing, if there was a real reason for it.
I tell him, you fight for your family, you fight for your country.
If there is a fight, the warriors will be young men barely grown up, whose parents can no longer protect them from harm.
I just wish I could hold him in my arms and hide him in a closet or something, but I mean, I can't do that.
Steve and Rachel Reyes play and replay the tape their son recorded aboard USS Saratoga. They hear the voice of a brave sailor and the voice of their little boy, who's a long way from home.
I want to tell you guys, please, don't worry and don't cry no more because it's kind of hard hearing you guys cry, you know, and it just makes me worry about you guys, and it makes my job a whole lot tougher than it already is. So please, don't cry no more, okay?
They are awfully young, aren't they? And with hardly any experience of war in that whole armada over there.
That's true, Charles, but in the time we've spent with them, including the most recent time, you get the impression that if, God forbid, they have to, they'll give a very good account of themselves. We'll have the latest from Wyatt Andrews at the White House coming up next as the clock ticks down to 0. The UN-ordered deadline for Saddam Hussein to pull out of Kuwait is now just moments away.
Leslie Stahl in Washington.
The U.S. government is taking the threat of terrorism extremely seriously. Law enforcement agencies around the country have been warned to be on alert. At the White House today, security was noticeably tightened as it was at other official buildings. Correspondent Deborah Potter joins us. Deborah, what other measures is the government taking?
Well, Leslie, the FBI has just completed a security survey of potential terrorist targets around the country. Targets like utilities, including nuclear power plants and transportation systems and military installations. All of them are now under increased protection. Officials also have confirmed that they are targeting a potential terrorist threat. Some 3,000 Iraqis who have overstayed their visas in the United States. Now, officials do not believe that all of these people are potential terrorists, but they want to find out. The FBI is looking for them to discover exactly who they are and why they're still here. And if they don't have a good reason, they could be deported.
Deborah, has the FBI come up with any specific threats? Have they apprehended anybody, anything like that?
Well, according to the FBI, at least half a dozen very real threats have been linked to the crisis in the Gulf, and there have been some incidents averted over the past few months. And we do know that one person is in jail in New Jersey accused of conspiracy to assassinate public officials.
Okay, thank you very much, Deborah Potter. Dan?
Thanks, Leslie. Deadline hour in the desert. what could be the crucial hour of a decision for war or peace in Washington and in Baghdad. The United Nations midnight deadline for Saddam Hussein to quit Kuwait or else has arrived. President Bush has said that as of this hour, Saddam Hussein is subject to the use of force by the hundreds of thousands of American servicemen and women and other allies arrayed against him in and around the Persian Gulf. As we look at this live picture of the White House in Washington, the questions, when or will President Bush give the actual order? When or will Saddam Hussein strike? And will Saddam Hussein try to strike first? The lights are burning late at the White House, where correspondent Wyatt Andrews is standing by. Wyatt?
Dan, as of this moment, and barring some sort of preemptive strike by Saddam Hussein that we have reported on in this broadcast, there is no indication right now that this war starts tonight. By all indications that we usually gauge things here, the president is not in the Oval Office as far as we can tell. No top advisors summoned. And in fact, his chief spokesman, Marlon Fitzwater, left at normal business hours tonight, saying that he expected the president to be in bed at this deadline hour. Still, Dan, at the same time, it's also true that the White House is operating on a policy of if there is war, it comes sooner rather than later, and that the go or no-go order could come literally at any time. We should point out that this is much different, too, than the Panama invasion, which is the only other precedent that we have in the Bush administration, where the very existence of the invasion force during that time was a well-guarded White House secret for up to 2 days. That's different this time. The invasion force is in place and simply awaiting the cue, the word to go or no go. Unusually, then, we are assured here that when and if the president should order a military attack, major news organizations that cover the White House on a regular basis will simply be called to return to the White House, and as I speak now, there is no such notification. So whether this takes days or hours or weeks even, and as the president mulls over decisions that, or factors that only he is privy to, Dan, it appears that if only for tactical surprise, perhaps we are in for a wait.
Wyatt, from the time of Joshua through Alexander and Caesar, what people least expect when it comes to war and threats of war often happen. Around the White House, are they surprised that it's come to this?
I think the clear answer to that is yes, Dan. You can go back to the original miscalculation, going all the way back in August, that Saddam Hussein was massing his troops on the Kuwaiti border, if only to gain an advantage in the oil price negotiations he had ongoing with Kuwait. But it's more than that. Very senior officials here have pointed to his rape of Kuwait and said, if the man is really wanting to get out of there, why is he taking everything with him? So I don't think they figured they would reach tonight in quite this way.
Wyatt Andrews at the White House. Let's go back now to the Pentagon Live and our Defense Department correspondent, David Martin. David, what are the signs of war? What telltale signs should we look and listen for and be sensitive to tell whether war is actually going to happen?
Well, Dan, I think now that the deadline has passed, there's going to be an increase in the U.S. and Allied air activity over Saudi Arabia, some of it for real, some of it faked by electronic means. And this will try to create a noise pattern of activity that will occupy all of the Iraqi air defense network and will keep them preoccupied so that if and when the real strike is ordered, it will look no different. The Iraqi scopes will look no different than they have for the past few days, looking at all this air activity and much of it just bogus electronic noise that we're going to be throwing at them probably.
David, there's been some talk that in the air war, which will be the first edge of the wedge in any actual combat, that the United States plans extensive use of the Tomahawk missiles, a form of the cruise missile, fired from the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Can that be?
I'd be surprised if it was fired from the Mediterranean, because you'd have to go over Syria, and these things have never been used in combat, and I'm not sure they fully trust it to go over a quote-unquote allied country. I think most likely from the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf.
David Martin at the Pentagon. Charles?
The King of Jordan, who has worked so hard to keep this day from coming, told his people today to prepare for imminent catastrophe. We'll go to Amman next.